Elena brushes past the junior officer trying to hand her a datapad filled with diplomatic protocols. The Galactic Concord representatives can wait another 5 minutes. She needs this moment alone with the Thunderchild. Systems check complete, Admiral, comes the ship's voice, calibrated to sound like her late wife Sophia. A personal touch Chen had programmed without authorization, but that Elena couldn't bring herself to change. All gravitational matrices stable at 40% capacity as per safety protocols. The enormous hangar makes the warship look deceptively small, though at nearly 2 kilometers long, it dwarfs anything humanity had built before. Its hull gleams with a metal that isn't quite metal, a composite material reverse-engineered from Arcturian salvage combined with Earth's quantum metallurgy. The result is something neither human nor alien, but stronger than both. "They're calling for you in the reception hall, Admiral," says Commander Rice, her XO, approaching with practiced quiet despite his massive frame. The Mithray representative is getting impatient. Apparently, they consider it rude to be kept waiting by. How did he phrase it? Nascent species barely out of their gravity well. Elena's lips curl slightly. Let them wait. We've waited 6 years for justice. Ray shifts uncomfortably. The diplomatic corps is concerned about the timing. Revealing our new defense capability on the same day we're formally joining the Concord might send the wrong message. And what message is that, Commander? That we won't be easy prey like the Vizari. That humanity won't accept second-class status in this galactic community. Elena runs her hand along a weapon port disguised as a sensor array. The Arcturians killed 2 million people on New Singapore, my daughter and wife included. The Concord did nothing but issue a formal reprimand. I know, Admiral. I lost my brother there too. Reyes hesitates, but the Thunderchild was built for defense, not revenge. If we antagonize the Concord before we've even joined, an alert chimes on both their communication implants, cutting him off. Elena's eyes narrow as she absorbs the tactical data flowing directly to her visual cortex. 3 Arcturian heavy cruisers have appeared near Europa's research stations, weapons hot. It seems the Arcturians are making our diplomatic point for us, she says, already striding toward the bridge access. Alert the crew. Launch preparations immediately. The Concord delegation, Rise begins, will have an excellent view of the Thunderchild's capabilities from the observation deck. Tactical display can be routed there. Elena's pace quickens. Maybe seeing is believing for these people. As the bridge doors slide open, the command crew snap to attention. Elena takes her seat in the captain's chair, feeling the neural interface activate, connecting her directly to the ship's systems. On the main view screen, the Arcturian cruisers have begun firing on the research outpost's defensive shields. Evacuations are already underway, civilian transports streaming away from the station. Targeting solutions ready. Admiral, reports Lieutenant Park from the weapons station. Gravitational focus points established. Elena stares at the screen, at the same distinctive Arcturian hull configuration she's seen in her nightmares for 6 years. She thinks of diplomatic consequences, of humanity's precarious position, of the delicate dance of interstellar politics. Then she thinks of her daughter's smile. "Take us out," she orders, her voice steady as steel. "Show them what happens when humanity decides to fight back." The Thunderchild's engines ignite, and for the first time in recorded history, a ship moves from stationary to half-light speed within Earth's gravity, well without creating a catastrophic gravitational wave. The impossible maneuver is just the first of many rules this ship will break today. The age of humanity hiding in the shadows of galactic giants is over. The Thunderchild exits its gravity, slipped directly between the Arcturian ships and Europa, materializing like a knife through reality's fabric. On the Arcturian flagship, Supreme Commander Vexlar's compound eyes widen as his tactical officer stammers through an explanation no Arcturian military manual prepared them for. Impossible transit pattern. Supreme Commander. The human vessel didn't. It didn't move through space. Space moved around it. Vexlar rises from his command pod, mandibles clicking in what passes for amusement among his kind. So they've learned a few tricks. Impressive for primates. Show them what a real military force looks like. All ships, full barrage. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Alina watches calmly as energized plasma streaks toward them. The crew tenses, their confidence in theoretical shields about to face its first real test. Incoming fire in 3. Lieutenant Park announces, 2, 1. The plasma strikes the Thunderchild's hull and simply stops. For one breathless moment, the energy dances across the surface like liquid lightning, tracing patterns of ancient mathematical symbols that Chen had incorporated into the shield harmonics. Then, impossibly, the energy begins flowing into recessed conduits along the hull. Power absorption at 97% efficiency. Chen reports from engineering, his voice tinged with the glee of a creator seeing his masterpiece perform beyond expectations. Redirecting to gravitational matrix. Alina leans forward. Target their primary engines only. Minimal gravitational distortion. Let's show restraint. Restraint, Admiral. Questions Reyes softly beside her. For now, she responds. Fire. The Thunderchild's gravitational weapons activate with subtle elegance. No dramatic energy beam. No explosive projectile. Just a focused distortion of spacetime itself. On the view screen, the Arcturian flagship's engine section seems to waver, as if viewed through heat rising from pavement, then implodes with mathematical precision. The ship doesn't explode. Rather, its rear third compresses into a perfect sphere 1 meter in diameter. The metal, equipment, and crew inside condensed beyond recognition. By the skies, whispers someone on the bridge. The 2 remaining Arcturian vessels immediately alter course, attempting to bracket the Thunderchild. Their coordinated fire intensifies, desperately seeking a weakness in the human vessel's defenses. They're targeting our gravitational emitters, Park reports. Adaptive targeting algorithms. They're learning. Alina nods. As expected, activate secondary defense grid. Chen, I need more power to forward shields. Already done, Admiral. We can safely increase to 50% capacity for short bursts. The battle evolves with terrifying speed. The Arcturians, renowned for their tactical prowess, attempt maneuvers that would confound any conventional opponent. But the Thunderchild moves with impossible precision, its gravitational drives allowing it to pivot and accelerate in ways that defy Newtonian physics. When the second Arcturian dreadnought attempts to launch its fighter swarm, Alina makes her decision. Target their flight deck. Full gravitational inversion. The effect is immediate and horrifying. The Arcturian ship's midsection expands rather than compresses, the metal stretching and tearing as internal spaces suddenly occupy exponentially more volume than physically possible. The ship breaks apart not from an explosion, but from spacetime itself rejecting the impossible geometries forced upon it. From Europa's observation platforms, hundreds of human researchers and their families watch in stunned silence. For 6 years, they've lived in fear of another Arcturian attack, another New Singapore. Now they witness what many will later describe in almost religious terms, retribution given form. The final Arcturian vessel attempts to flee, abandoning its mission in the face of incomprehensible defeat. Alina watches its retreat vector on the tactical display. Let it go, asks Reyes. Alina shakes her head. They need to carry our message back. Target their communication array only. Precision burst. The Galactic Concorde's central chamber dwarfs any human structure, its crystalline dome stretching half a kilometer above the assembled delegates. Alina stands at the center of the speaking platform, the glowing accusation markers hovering in the air around her like fireflies of judgment. Above, the 7 Mithray High Counselors float in their gravity pods, their translucent bodies pulsing with patterns of light that their translator devices render into speech. The human vessel Thunderchild has created 17 distinct ruptures in the fabric of spacetime, intones High Counselor Lethmera, his voice artificially deepened to accommodate human hearing ranges. These ruptures violate Section 12.3 of the Preservation Accords, which your government signed upon joining the Concord. Alina keeps her posture military straight. The Preservation Accords which we signed yesterday after the battle. The same accords that weren't enforced when the Arcturians attacked New Singapore colony unprovoked 6 years ago. A murmur ripples through the assembled delegates. 57 species are represented, most watching through various technological aids adapted to their unique biologies. Many of the smaller non-council races exchange glances that Alina recognizes from her years of diplomatic training. The look of subjugated peoples witnessing unexpected defiance. The timing of your signature is irrelevant, continues Lethmera. The accords represent the foundations of galactic civilization. The technology your species has developed poses an existential threat to all. Lieutenant Commander Chen stands 2 paces behind Alina, visibly uncomfortable in his formal dress uniform. He had insisted on accompanying her despite having no diplomatic training, claiming the technical questions would be beyond anyone else's understanding. If I may address the technical concerns, Chen interrupts, stepping forward despite protocol. Our gravitational manipulation technology is precisely controlled. The space-time ruptures were a result of first deployment calibration issues, which have since been. Silence, hisses another Mithray counselor. You presume to lecture us on gravitational physics. We were manipulating gravity wells before your species had discovered fire. Alina gives Chen a warning glance, and he steps back, though his expression remains defiant. The Concord has ruled, Lethmera announces. The vessel designated Thunderchild must be decommissioned immediately under Concord supervision. Its gravitational technology must be surrendered for proper containment. From the Earth Delegation Section, Ambassador Collins rises. The Thunderchild represents Earth's primary defensive capability. After the Arcturian aggression, surely the Concord understands our reluctance to disarm. The Arcturian incident was addressed according to Concord law. Lethmera responds dismissively. Reparations were ordered. Reparations. Alina's voice cuts through the chamber, sharper than diplomatic propriety allows. 2 million humans died. My family died. The Arcturian commander responsible was reassigned to a colony world as punishment. The Arcturian delegation bristles, their segmented armor clicking as they shift in agitation. Their ambassador, a towering insectoid with ceremonial gold-plated mandibles, makes a sound that the translators struggle with before rendering it as, "The humans provoked us by expanding into contested resources. Their deaths, while regrettable, were a consequence of their own aggression." Alina's hand moves instinctively toward a sidearm that isn't there. Weapons aren't permitted in the Concord chambers. Ambassador Collins quickly intervenes, stepping between Alina and the center platform. "We request a recess to consider the Concord's ruling," he announces formally. Outside the chamber, in a small consultation room designed for oxygen brothers, Collins rounds on Alina. "Do you realize what you've done? We had a diplomatic strategy. They want us defenseless." Alina responds. The accords were designed to keep emerging species dependent on Concord protection, which consistently fails to materialize when needed. The Thunderchild saved thousands of lives at Europa, Chen adds. And now they want us to hand it over because it worked too well. Collins paces the room. The political reality is complicated. Half the council races have technology-sharing agreements with the Arcturians. We need time to build alliances. While you build alliances, Alina says coldly, the Thunderchild will remain Earth's shield. The Arcturians only understand strength. Collins' communication implant chimes, and his expression falls as he receives the message. It's too late for debate. Earth Central Command has agreed to the decommissioning, with certain face-saving conditions. He looks at Alina with genuine regret. "I'm sorry, Admiral." The order comes directly from the Secretary General. The Thunderchild's wardroom falls silent as Alina finishes reading the decommissioning orders. Around the glossy black table, the senior officers' expressions range from shock to outrage. They can't be serious, Lieutenant Park says finally. After what we accomplished at Yoruba, we're just going to hand over our only effective defense. Alina sets the datapad down carefully. Those are our orders. The Concord inspection team arrives at 600 to begin the decommissioning process. By this time tomorrow, the Thunderchild will be stripped of its gravitational weapons and core systems. Commander Reyes studies her face. You've got that look, Admiral. The one you had before we launched against the Arcturians. I don't know what you're talking about, Commander, Alina responds, but her tone lacks conviction. She rises and activates the room's security protocols. Soundproofing, signal jamming, and anti-surveillance measures all engaging simultaneously. What I'm about to suggest is treason, she says flatly. Anyone who wishes to leave should do so now. I won't think less of you, and no record of this conversation will exist. No one moves. The Thunderchild doesn't belong to the politicians or the Concord, she continues. It belongs to the 2 million souls who died on New Singapore, to the colonists who live in fear of the next Arcturian attack, to humanity's future among the stars. Chen leans forward. There's something else you should know, Admiral. He activates his personal datapad, projecting a complex schematic of the ship's gravitational core. The Thunderchild is operating at less than half its potential. What? Alina stares at the projection. Safety protocols, Chen explains, eyes feverish with the enthusiasm of a creator discussing his masterpiece. I installed governor systems throughout the gravitational matrix. Without them, the ship could generate effects an order of magnitude more powerful. Why would you limit it? Asks Dr. Nazari, the chief medical officer. Chen's expression darkens. Because at full capacity, the technology could theoretically tear holes in reality that wouldn't heal. I was cautious. Communications Officer Ciranero, typically the quietest among the senior staff, clears her throat. There's something else you should all see. She transfers a file to the central display. I intercepted this transmission yesterday. It was heavily encrypted, but the pattern-matching algorithms flagged similarities to communications from New Singapore before the attack. The display shows grainy footage of an alien mining operation. Insectoid workers, Vizari, Alina recognizes, toil under harsh conditions, their delicate exoskeletons cracking under loads they weren't evolved to carry. Overseeing them are Arcturian guards with neural whips. This is happening on Vizari Prime, Nero explains. The Vizari officially requested Concord intervention 3 standard years ago. The request was denied as lacking sufficient evidence of rights violations. More damning is what appears in the corner of the footage, the Concord inspection seal on resource containers leaving the facility. They're complicit, whispers Park. Alina stares at the footage, then at the faces of her officers. If we leave now, we'll be fugitives. If we stay, we'll be surrendering the one weapon that frightens the Concord enough to actually change things. Rise finishes. Alina nods slowly. I need all of you to make this choice freely. Deactivate your tracking implants if you're with me. Otherwise, report to your quarters, and we'll never speak of this again. One by one, the officers touch their communication devices, deactivating the standard tracking protocols built into all Concord-affiliated military personnel implants. The small act of defiance feels momentous in the quiet room. Plot a course beyond Concord space, Alina orders. Somewhere we can operate without immediate detection while we decide our next move. What about Earth? Asks Nazari. They'll face sanctions for our actions. Earth's leadership made their choice, Alina says, her voice hardening. Now we've made ours. She turns to Chen. How quickly can you remove the safety protocols? Chen hesitates. It's not just software, Admiral. Its hardware interlocks throughout the ship. Days, maybe weeks of work. Start immediately, she orders, and transmit a secure message to your contacts in Earth's Science Division. We need to know who our allies are. As the officers disperse to their stations, Alina remains in the wardroom alone, staring at the frozen image of the Vizari workers. The path ahead is uncertain, dangerous, and likely one way. But for the first time since receiving the decommissioning orders, she feels something like peace. Navigation. Set course for the Callisto Shadow. She orders through the ship's communication system. We launch in 30 minutes. In precisely 27 minutes, the Thunderchild vanishes from Earth's tracking systems without a trace, leaving behind only a brief encrypted message on the Secretary General's private channel. We choose justice over politics. Hold our families blameless. The Thunderchild materializes from its gravity slip with surgical precision, appearing 50 kilometers above the primary Arcturian processing facility on Visari Prime. The tropical world's 3 moons hang in the daytime sky like pale observers to what follows. Stealth systems holding, reports Lieutenant Park. No detection signatures from Arcturian defense grid. Elena studies the tactical display, where the sprawling mining complex spreads across the jungle terrain. The Arcturians had deliberately built their barracks and administrative centers among the Visari living quarters, a tactic they'd employed on a dozen worlds to discourage orbital strikes. Chen, do we have the targeting resolution to differentiate between the structures? Elena asks. Chen nods, his fingers dancing across his control panel. The gravitational pulses can be focused to within 3 meters. We can target the guard towers and weapons emplacements while leaving the Visari quarters untouched. Make it happen. Elena turns to Nero. Broadcast on all frequencies used by the Visari. Tell them to prepare for evacuation. The operation unfolds with methodical precision. Targeted gravitational pulses compress Arcturian guard towers into twisted masses of metal, while creating corridors of safe passage for the Visari workers. Shuttles from the Thunderchild descend through the atmosphere, protected by portable shield generators that repel the increasingly desperate Arcturian counterfire. On the main view screen, Elena watches as the first Visari reach the shuttles, thousands of insectoid figures, their iridescent exoskeletons dull from years of harsh conditions, many bearing the scars of mural whips and stress fractures. Arcturian reinforcements launching from their southern base, warns Reyes. Estimated arrival in 15 minutes. We'll be gone in 10, Elena responds. Status of the evacuation. 83% complete, Nero reports. The Visari are remarkably organized. The final shuttles lift off just as the Arcturian response force appears on the horizon. The Thunderchild fires a parting gift, a gravitational inversion that turns the Arcturian weapon catches against themselves, creating a spectacular chain reaction that will render the facility unusable for months. As the ship prepares to depart the system, a signal comes through on a frequency the Thunderchild systems don't recognize. It's coming from the surface, Nero says with surprise. It's the Visari Queen. The view screen fills with the image of Queen Exizzled, her compound eyes reflecting the light of fire still burning in the Arcturian compound behind her. The translators struggle momentarily with her complex harmonic language before rendering it into standard human speech. Thunderchild vessel, this is Exizzled, born mother of the Visari hive. She chitlers, her mandibles moving in patterns that suggest deep emotion. For 3 cycles of the Great Moon, my people have endured slavery while the mighty Concord looked away. Today, you have done what they would not. Elena steps forward. Your Majesty, I'm Admiral Kostova. We came because no living being deserves what was being done to your people. The Queen's antennae quiver. The Arcturians told us humans were violent primitives to be feared. Perhaps they feared what you might do if you saw how they truly behave. She pauses, her translator struggling with what follows. The Visari have not forgotten how to fight. We have ships, old ships, small ships, hidden beneath our canopy forests since the Concord peace treaties disarmed us. Your Majesty, Elena begins. We will join you, Azult declares, not a question but a statement. My High General tells me you are now enemies of the Concord. So are we. Better to die standing than live on our knees. Though we have no knees, as you can see. The joke, awkwardly translated, still brings a smile to several bridge officers. Within days, the pattern repeats across other oppressed worlds. The Thunderchild strikes with precise, overwhelming force, then vanishes before Concord responders can arrive. Each liberation adds to their growing fleet. Visari scout ships, Lorathi trading vessels refitted with weapon systems, even a handful of obsolete Concord patrol craft liberated by their crews. 3 weeks after leaving Earth, Alina stands in the Thunderchild's observation deck, watching as their Ragdig armada assembles in the shadow of an uninhabited system's asteroid field. 87 ships of varying sizes and capabilities, crewed by beings from 17 different species. Not exactly the Earth fleet, observes Rise, joining her at the viewport. No, Alina agrees. It's something better. It's a true alliance. Her communication implant chimes with an encrypted message, the special frequency reserved for their few remaining contacts on Earth. The news makes her blood run cold. The Concord has just declared the Thunderchild officially illegal in all known space, she tells Reyes. The bounty on the ship and crew has reached astronomical levels. Should we be concerned? He asks. Elena watches as a Visari scout ship executes a perfect formation turn, its pilots demonstrating skill that belies their primitive vessel. What interests me, she says slowly, is a special provision added by the Mithray. The ship must be captured intact, not destroyed. She turns to her XO. Why would they care so specifically about preserving technology they claim is too dangerous to exist? The Liberation Fleet celebrates their 30th successful operation, the freedom of a Lorathi agricultural colony from Arcturian control, when Nero detects an anomaly. In the Thunderchild's communication center, she calls up Alina and Chin to examine her findings. It was hiding in plain sight, she explains, highlighting a seemingly random pattern in standard Arcturian transmissions. This doesn't match any known encryption protocol, but it appears consistently in all high-level Arcturian communications. Chen studies the pattern, his brow furrowed. It's almost like, is that a quantum resonance signature? That's what caught my attention. Nero confirms. It shouldn't be possible to transmit quantum data through standard communication channels. For 3 days, Chen and his team work without rest to decrypt the pattern. When they succeed, the result is coordinates, precise directions to a facility deep in Arcturian space, unmarked on any official star charts. It must be a trap, argues Reyes during the strategy meeting. The Concord would love nothing more than to catch us in Arcturian territory. They could justify any response. Maybe, Alina concedes, but my instincts say otherwise. The encryption was too sophisticated for Arcturians. Someone else created this. The Liberation Fleet creates an elaborate diversion, a simulated attack on an Arcturian outpost that draws their defense fleet away from the mysterious coordinates. Meanwhile, the Thunderchild slips through their sensor net using modified stealth systems based on Visari biotechnology. What they discover isn't a military installation, but a vast data archive. The facility's security systems are unlike anything the Arcturians typically deploy. Layers of quantum encryption and gravitational locks that take Chen hours to bypass. These systems, he mutters as they work. They're using principles similar to our gravitational matrix, but more refined, centuries more advanced. When they finally access the archive's core, the holographic history unfolds before the stunned crew. Recordings dating back thousands of years, preserved with perfect fidelity. The truth is more disturbing than Alina could have imagined. The Mithray, venerated as wise founders of galactic civilization, feeding on the energy released during gravitational disturbances. The recordings show them hovering over ancient battlefields, their translucent bodies pulsing as they absorb the gravitational waves released by massive space battles. The preservation accords, Alina whispers as the implications become clear. They weren't designed to protect reality from dangerous technologies. They were designed to prevent the development of weapons that could harm the Mithray. Chen finishes, while ensuring conventional wars continued to feed them. Further records reveal more damning evidence. The Mithrae have systematically sabotaged peace initiatives throughout galactic history, covertly encouraging conflict between species while presenting themselves as neutral mediators. We need to broadcast this galaxy-wide, Elena decides. Every species needs to see. Proximity alarms scream before she can finish. A massive Concorde fleet has appeared, led by ships of a design never before encountered. Sleek vessels with organic curves that pulse with internal light. The Mithrae's own Black Fleet, hidden from the galaxy for centuries. How did they find us? Demands Reyes. The answer comes when Lieutenant Harker from security arrives with a struggling junior officer in custody. Found him transmitting on a quantum frequency, Admiral. He's been feeding them our position since we left Earth. There's no time for a proper investigation. The Thunderchild takes devastating damage, covering the retreat of the Liberation Fleet carrying copies of the data archive. As systems fail around her, Elena makes a desperate decision. Set course for Earth, she orders. Maximum speed. Earth? Reyes questions. They'll hand us over to the Concorde. Not when they see what we found. Elena turns to Chen. How long will the gravitational drives hold? Chen's face is grim as he studies the damage reports. The primary matrix is destabilizing. We can make one more gravity slip, maybe two if we're lucky. As the Thunderchild prepares to jump, Elena sends a final message to the scattered Liberation Fleet, coordinates for a rendezvous point, and instructions to spread the truth however they can. The ship enters its gravity slip with Mithrae vessels in pursuit, the fabric of space-time itself protesting as the damaged drives force reality to bend. Emergency systems wail as structural integrity fields struggle to hold the ship together. They're following us through the slip, reports Park, disbelief in her voice. How is that possible? They invented the technology we reverse-engineered, Chen answers grimly. Of course they can track it. Elena stares at the tactical display, watching as the Mithrae ships close the gap. The Thunderchild has one advantage: Chen's modifications, the removal of the safety protocols that limited the ship's true potential. Chen, she says quietly, it's time to see what this ship can really do. His eyes meet hers, understanding the implications. Full power could tear the ship apart. If we don't make it to Earth with this evidence, billions will continue living under Mithrae manipulation, she responds. Some risks are worth taking. Chen nods once, then begins the delicate process of removing the final hardware interlocks on the gravitational matrix. As he works, Elena stares at the pursuing Mithrae ships, their organic hulls rippling as they navigate the gravity slip. For the first time, she feels they are facing the true enemy. Not the Arcturians, but the puppet masters who had used them all in a game centuries old. The nebula's ionized gases swirl around the wounded Thunderchild, providing cover while emergency repairs transform the ship into a hive of desperate activity. Their gravity slip escape from the Mithrae pursuers had pushed the damaged systems beyond safe limits, leaving the vessel bleeding atmosphere from a dozen hull breaches. In the engineering core, Chen works feverishly, surrounded by holographic schematics and discarded tools. The gravitational matrix, the heart of the ship's revolutionary technology, pulses with unstable energy, its containment systems struggling after the strain of their escape. The physical interlocks are integrated at the quantum level, Chen explains to Elena, his hands blackened with conductive fluid. I have to rebuild sections of the matrix entirely to remove them. Elena studies the damage reports scrolling across her datapad. How long? 48 hours minimum, Chen answers. And Admiral, removing these final safety measures is crossing a line. The gravitational effects could theoretically cascade beyond our control. Theoretically, Elena repeats, and practically. Chen sighs. Practically, we'll have weapons capabilities beyond anything we've demonstrated. The ship could generate gravitational distortions powerful enough to affect stellar bodies. But the structural integrity field wasn't designed for those stresses. The Thunderchild may not survive using such power more than once. From the bridge, Reyes reports growing concerns. The Mithrae have deployed a search grid. At their current pattern, they'll find us within 72 hours. Elena activates the secure communication channel to their remaining contacts on Earth. The message she receives confirms her worst fears. The Mithrae have demanded Earth's complete cooperation in locating the renegade vessel, threatening sanctions that would cripple Earth's economy. But there's a glimmer of hope as well. The data they transmitted about the Mithrae conspiracy has caused ripples throughout Earth's military and scientific communities. Admiral Wei, Elena's former mentor and now Earth Fleet Commander, has convened a secret meeting of senior officers to review the evidence. Meanwhile, across human colonies and among the species they've liberated, underground communication networks spread the truth about the Mithrae. Protest movements emerge on dozens of worlds, demanding answers from Concord representatives. The Mithrae are getting desperate. Narrow reports, monitoring intercepted communications. They're deploying their full fleet, ships that haven't been seen in centuries. Elena returns to engineering, where Chen makes the final connections to unlock the Thunderchild's full potential. Warning signals flood his diagnostic panel, bathing the compartment in red light. All internal safety protocols disengage, he announces, his voice betraying his exhaustion after days without sleep. The gravitational matrix is now operating at full capacity. And the risks? Elena asks quietly. Chen gestures to the holographic models surrounding them. Best case, we get 1, maybe 2 full power engagements before critical systems fail. Worst case, we create a gravitational distortion that doesn't stop growing. A black hole, Elena translates. An oversimplification, but essentially correct. Elena places her hand on the pulsing heart of the gravitational matrix, feeling the subtle vibration of power previously held in check. You've given us a weapon of last resort, Chen. Let's hope we don't need to use it. Back on the bridge, tactical alerts suddenly blare. Gravitational disturbance detected, reports Park. Massive energy signature. It's the Mithrae. They found us. On the main view screen, the nebula's gases part as a fleet of Mithrae vessels approaches. Not the conventional Concord ships, but their true fleet. Organic-looking craft pulse with internal light, their hulls rippling as they navigate the nebulous currents. They're hailing us, Narrow announces. The view screen shifts to show a Mithrae unlike any they've encountered in the Concord chambers. This one's translucent body contains swirling patterns of darkness rather than light, its voice deeper and older sounding when the translator processes it. Human vessel Thunderchild. It intones, I am Void Dancer, Elder Hunter of the Mithrae Continuance. Your interference in the natural order ends here. Natural order. Elena responds, you mean your manipulation of entire species for food. The Mithrae's body pulses with patterns that the translator identifies as amusement. For millennia, we have guided lesser species toward their proper function. Your kind was to be no different. Violent enough to be useful, never advanced enough to be threatening. Yet here you are, wielding forces you cannot comprehend. We comprehend enough, Elena answers. Enough to know you've been feeding on the deaths of billions across countless wars you orchestrated. The Mithrae's response chills the bridge crew. All species serve a purpose in the cosmic ecosystem. Yours is to fight and die for our sustenance. Accept your role, surrender your vessel, and perhaps your species will be permitted to continue existing in some form. Elena cuts the transmission with a slashing gesture. Battle stations. Prepare for. She's interrupted by proximity alerts as new gravitational signatures appear at the nebula's edge. For a moment, the bridge crew braces for reinforcing Mithrae vessels until the IFF signals register. Earth ships, Park announces incredulously. It's the reserve fleet. All 30 vessels. A familiar face appears on the communication screen. Admiral Wei, his formal uniform replaced by unmarked combat gear. Thunderchild, this is Admiral Wei aboard the EFS Defiant. Earth officially disavows our actions, but it seems our entire navigation system has experienced a catastrophic failure. Quite unfortunate timing. Despite everything, Elena smiles. Very unfortunate. Admiral. Wei's expression turns serious. We've reviewed your evidence, Elena. If even half of it is accurate, the Mithrae have been manipulating humanity since our first contact. The Secretary General officially ordered us to help apprehend you, but it seems my crew and I have suddenly developed communication system malfunctions as well. As the Earth fleet moves to support position, Elena studies the tactical display. Even with these reinforcements, they remain heavily outnumbered by the Mithrae vessels. We have one advantage they don't expect. She tells why. But using it may be a one-way trip. The space around the Mithrae homeworld glitters with the lights of 1,000 ships, the largest fleet gathering in galactic history. At its center floats the Mithrae High Council vessel, a massive structure of crystalline material that pulses with internal light, surrounded by their black fleet of organic warships. The Liberation Fleet and Earth's reserve ships emerge from their final gravity slip in tight formation, immediately surrounded by enemy vessels that outnumber them 20-1. From the Thunderchild's bridge, Elena surveys the tactical situation with the calm of a commander who has accepted all possible outcomes. All ships, defensive formation Delta, she orders. Focus fire on their forward screening vessels. Force them to commit their reserves. The battle begins with a devastating exchange of conventional weapons. The Earth ships and their allies fight with disciplined coordination, but the technological superiority of the Mithrae fleet quickly tells. On Elena's tactical display, friendly icons begin to blink out as ships are destroyed or disabled. We've lost the Vezeri cruiser Hive Defender, reports Park. The Lorathi vessels are taking heavy damage on our port flank. Elena nods grimly. It's time. Chen, bring the gravitational matrix to full power. Chen's voice comes through the communication system, tense but controlled. Matrix at full capacity, Admiral. All safety protocols disengage. Containment fields at maximum. Target the Mithrae flagship. Elena orders. Prepare to fire on my mark. What happens next will be discussed by physicists and military historians for centuries. The Thunderchild moves as if space itself is an ocean and it alone can command the tides. Enemy weapons fire bends around it in impossible curves. When it fires, entire squadrons of ships compress into abstract sculptures of twisted metal. The Mithrae respond with weapons of their own that have never been revealed to their allies, beams of pure gravitational force that distort everything they touch. The Liberation Fleet suffers grievous losses, but the Earth ships maneuver to protect the Thunderchild as it drives toward the Mithrae Council vessel with single-minded purpose. Admiral. Chen's voice comes through, strained with effort as he manually regulates the overloading systems. Core destabilizing. Containment at 40% and falling. Elena makes her decision instantly. All Allied vessels, this is Admiral Kostova. Fall back to minimum safe distance. I repeat, all ships withdraw immediately. Admiral Wei's voice breaks through the chaotic communications. Elena, what are you planning? Something the Mithrae won't expect, she answers. Now go. That's an order. Admiral. As the Allied fleet disengages, the Thunderchild accelerates toward the Mithrae Council ship, taking devastating hits that would destroy any conventional vessel. Its hull glows with energy absorption patterns, but the damage is mounting. Structural integrity failing, reports Reyes, gripping his console as the ship shudders. Hull breaches on decks 5 through 12. Maintain course, Elena commands. Chen, prepare the final modification. In engineering, Chen activates the program he created for this moment, a controlled gravitational cascade designed to expand outward in a perfect sphere. The ship's systems protest, warning klaxons blaring as the gravitational matrix pushes beyond its design parameters. Ready, Admiral, he reports. But once initiated, we'll have less than 60 seconds before catastrophic failure. Elena looks around the bridge at her crew, humans who've become family during their months as fugitives. It's been an honor serving with all of you. If anyone wishes to evacuate, the time is now. No one moves. As the Thunderchild reaches optimal range, the Mithray Council vessel fires its primary weapon, a gravitational beam that begins to tear the human ship apart plate by plate. But it's too late to stop what's coming. Now, Shen, Elena orders. The Thunderchild's gravitational weapons activate one final time, but not as a destructive force. Instead, Shen's masterpiece creates a precisely calibrated gravitational frequency, one that interferes with the Mithray's ability to feed on gravitational energy. The effect is immediate and devastating. The Mithray ships, designed to harvest gravitational disruptions, try to absorb the cascade and burn out instantly. The Council vessel's organic systems fail catastrophically, its crystalline structure shattering as